Bit of Ravi straight from the jump. There's tea to be drunk. And I'll just leave that up on screen for you just to set the scene. If you're on audio, you should go to youtube.com/cowdaily to find out what it says. See, there's a lot of energy in the live chat. I've read a bit of it. How about you put some like considerable energy into sharing and liking the show early? A lot of speculation as to where I was. Maybe you'll never know now. Maybe I won't tell you. Let everybody join, just the usual. See who's about before we're gone. Usual suspect. They're basically in the comments, they've been speculating that I've been having a big poo. I didn't, not this time. It's enough of Shankar there. Elevator music, Ravi Shankar. I've come to know and love it. Maybe it's not today, but I've come to know and love that music. So anyway, how he's getting on, let us know. Today we're going to talk about the rise of fascism. Again, like we've been doing for a long time now, whilst others ignore. And now the heavy, how could this possibly have happened, Grotbags type energy is kicking in. How could it have possibly happened? Why not go to youtube.com/cowdaily and look at the back catalogue? If you prefer audio, there's links in the description for Spotify and Apple Podcasts. There's loads of different reasons why. There's loads. And here we are. The Fash on the rise, poised to take over in France for the first time since the Vichy regime in the 1930s. How wonderful. If you're Russell Brand. And we'll be talking about him in a moment. Could not really. What an absolute tool bag of a man. So anyway, let's see what's going on. Just gone straight into it and that, you know. I think that's what they say. Before we do, though, I just want to... Alice Wolf posted this as a memories the other day. It's the anniversary of the death of Big Merv Shields of notorious Nazi band Screwdriver, instrumental in the notorious Blood and Honor neo-Nazi music network. He died from COVID. He was unvaccinated and called COVID a lefty Jewish plot. Lest we fucking forget. That's a good way to start the show. Mad. Just a scene setter as well. Joey Barton tweeted this after Nigel Farage was milkshaked. Milkshakes today, bricks tomorrow, petrol bombs next week. That was on the 23rd of May 2019. I'll just leave that one. Just leave that one there. Read. Brand. Before we do, I'm going on full screen for this. Get that crown on my head. Fetch the scepter. Mystic Cow predicts. Well, I mean, for me, back then, even though the brickbats and the lies were being thrown my way, I was apparently deluded for even suggesting that he'd went a bit fash and he was going to endorse Donald Trump. People who tune in on the regs know I've said it many times. And sometimes you've got to roll with the punches and just promote the truth, because there's no point being intelligent unless you're going to be brave. And I tell you this, right? A lot of you will never know the crap that I went through because of this. So I'm having my crown and scepter. Get it on me fucking heed now. Oh, it's just before the 5-minute cut off. So fuck, it's a victory lap. Right. Brand. Do us a favor in the comments too, as usual. Let us know if you can hear the audio on your end, because you do get the odd little problem. Anyway, this is what Brand has to say about Donald Trump. What's he say?
Snobbery and contempt and condemnation in which people that support Donald Trump are plainly held by his detractors. And this is while you have an administration that's emulating his policies, plagiarizing from Donald Trump, while simultaneously criminalizing him through the weaponization of the legal
My
system.
God.
In a straight choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, if you care about democracy, if you care about freedom, I don't know how you can do anything other than vote for Donald Trump.
Right, I'm just going to stop that there straight away. Throughout this entire little piece, thanks for telling us the audio is fine, Joanne. Throughout this whole little piece here, I'll probably be stopping it a little bit because he's just said, I don't know how anybody cannot vote for Donald Trump in regarding democracy, freedom, all of that, right? They're all doing it. All this is two factions fighting against each other. Brand's paymasters, JD Vance, Peter Thiel, met with Rupert Murdoch, Elon Musk in LA the other week and others, just to talk about how to get Trump elected. Peter Thiel was also at Bilderberg last week in Madrid. I say this all the time, but if you're just joining for this one piece, how did fascism happen? Let's listen to him. It's in part due to these so-called independent media people. Listen, you're not independent media if you're getting millions off Peter Thiel. Let's crack the fuck on. Your best way of putting it is like this, right? There's two sides of the same coin. Libertarians be like, tyranny.gov, no. Tyranny.com, yes. And what that means is they want small government, big tyranny, big private sector. So basically, they would say that Biden, etc., or like tyranny.gov, which is absolutely mad for anybody who knows anything about politics, and that they are like tyranny.com. But that's really good because like the markets decide and all of that, which is completely different to what Brand was talking about when he was with the E14. I think that was it, the E14 pressure group about housing. We had them actually on the show back in the day. That's how close to the vibe we were then with this knob. So anyway, back to Bland. Do us a favor as well. I've took it out, so let us know whether you can still hear it, because that'll be appreciated. Check this mug.
For precisely the reasons that they claim that you can't vote for Donald Trump. They act as if a vote for Donald Trump is almost like you're directly voting for Armageddon. Like you see hysterical performances outside of courtrooms, endless MSNBC bombast. But I'm starting to think that no, a greater threat to democracy is this kind of technological feudalism that tells you that it cares about you and it's protecting vulnerable people, all the while increasing censorship, increasing the funding.
Come here. Technological feudalism, right? He is doing that. Peter Thiel, his paymaster, could not be any more of that. Technological feudalism. It's literally the libertarian doctrine that they are trying to bring about. They're literally doing that. He'll then go on to say, Brand here, that it's the other side. He's just a finger pointer. And maybe he believes this through repetition now. I don't know. Sometimes people, when they're like a rabbit in the headlights, will say anything.
Wars, increasing the division between ordinary Americans. What do you think?
I think that the Armageddon that everyone's warning everyone of actually started when Joe Biden took office. What we're seeing in this country.
Right, I'm just going to point out who this is. This is one of Donald Trump's spokespersons. Like, what do you think, Donald Trump's spokesperson, after I've just ran game for the Fash?
Around the world. World War III, I mean, people talk about this every single day because of what's happening in Ukraine, because of what's happening in Gaza. Look at the inflation rates here. Look at our border. Look at all the issues Americans are facing. This all started when Joe Biden took office.
The disjunct between reality and the discourse is what frightens me most of all. The idea of this kind of Kafkaesque, Huxley-esque, Orwellian nightmare continuing all the while they're telling you.
Right, he is literally going on about an Orwellian nightmare, right? He's going on about an Orwellian nightmare relating to Biden, which is, fine. We can see that, Israel, everything like that. Fuck all those people. But he's taking that away from Donald Trump whilst talking to Donald Trump's spokesperson. That's really bad.
That they're helping you. It's a far greater threat than their constant portrayal of Trump as a mad strongman figure, a kind of 21st century reiteration of the despotism of the last century. For me, what we are facing now is a bigger threat than that.
Oh, shut up, man. Like literally Thiel is going to bring all of this stuff in. again, people who've been here a long time know this. Peter Mandelson, Labour Party, Machiavelli in the UK, greased the wheels so this mug could get the NHS data contract via his company Palantir. Palantir also, as Carlos pointed out to us last night by sharing an article, have also had the wheels greased on some 30-day fast-track program to become a preferred supplier with the Pentagon. So they're doing military-related stuff. Brand isn't talking about that. He's also not talking about Palantir's AI being used in Israel to target people. But yet he talks about the deep state and all of this, like, sort of tyranny and whatever. I mean, that's just the few things I've mentioned in a few seconds. We could go on, and we probably will later. But there's a narrative here, so we've got to keep going. Read, what's this? Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. Well, I'll just do a little whistle stop about him. We've done a little deep dive on him. Honestly, go to the back catalogue. People seem to be ready to hear, well, how could this have happened? We've literally been saying so for ages now. Tucker Carlson's dad. Go and find out who Tucker Carlson's dad was. Spook. Go and find out what Tucker Carlson himself, when he was young, did in Cuba. So anyway, back to the image on screen. The reason I mentioned this actually is like Brand's going on tour with this mug. But the image on screen, right, is somebody called Eva Vlaardin de Broek. She's a Dutch fascist, basically. She used to be in a relationship, might still be, with somebody called Thierry Baudet, who's like, yeah, a leading light of the European fash scene. Because that's what they are, they're fascists. So basically, what they've been doing is wheeling in these like impossibly beautiful, often blonde women and just forefronting them. So I wanted to point that out too. That is a very deliberate thing. There's a Lauren Southern is another good example of this. It's just it's what it's about is just sanitizing the fash, and it's slipping through into British academia, and we'll detail that later as well. It's a very dangerous time indeed. So there we go. Russell Brand. Yes, I'll be joining Tucker Carlson in the national tour in September. For tickets and more info, hit the link in the bio, blah, blah, blah. People now, somebody told me the other day they were talking to like some like old, like Stasi fetish, old school lefty from the UK who literally thinks Tucker Carlson's now a socialist. Literally thinks that. I mean, we've went full circle here. It's the left-wing equivalent of the Fash being told that the Nazis were socialists. It's just, this is literally what Thiel's here to do, right? Pay people like Brand and do lots of other different things so people don't know what's real and what isn't real anymore. That's the thing. It's to break society, the social contract, and it's to break the institutions. So a lot of this move towards the EU, which isn't perfect, as I've said many times, is about breaking that as an institution because it does act as a bulwark for workers' rights, etc. What they're trying to do is just remove everything. So there's like individual contracts and all that libertarian shit, which just isn't going to work. 2 seconds, though. There's something I do need to do, and I'm just going to play this real quick while I do it, and I'll tell you what it is when I get back in a few seconds. We're back. I need to go and plug the laptop in. Everything was going so well. It still is. We're back. I don't know, have a quick swig of this. Right. So anyway, he's gotten on tour with Tucker Carlson. Thought that was a spook in that. But that's the thing. I mean, like, you know, when the whoever smelt a Delta thing is like in full effect, isn't it? Because, you know, he's look at all the finger pointing in that video, and it's like, that's you, fool. That's you. Nobody else but you. See what else we got on the video front. This is another thing that is part of this whole blag from Brand, which is his Christianity. And once again, StreamYard's playing up, so let me know if you can hear this. I just wanted to like illustrate, like, this is the type of stuff he's putting out. everybody knows he's not a real friggin' Christian, man. But like, you know, for the purposes of ongoing legal cases, we couldn't possibly say what's going on. So anyway, right, where on earth? This is Brand saying, how does what Paul writes in Ephesians 6 relate to what all of us feel? Now, I haven't watched this. I was sent this, and I assume because it will boil me pace. So let's go.
This is what I've been looking at in the Bible today. You know, Ephesians 6:12, one of Paul's letters to the Ephesians. He wrote a lot of letters, Paul. He done a lot of miracles. He got a lot done, but he still had time for correspondence. What excuse have we got for not getting down with our admin? I like this. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. What do you consider that to actually mean in terms
Right, I'm going to stop you there. Like, do you see what game is being run here? How surely people can see what he's doing here. What possible evil could that be, Grotbags? What possible thing could that be? That it's Biden. It's definitely Biden. It's nothing to do with Trump. All right, Trump's actually a fucking great guy. I've met him. Was smoking cigars with his son the other day, but we'll come on to that. Grotbags. Check him.
of the global struggle, the geopolitical wars that spill across the world right now, the sense that there are corporate globalist forces.
See how this mug infantilizes his new audience, and maybe he's not infantilizing them at all. Maybe this is like, oh, I really want to speak to you like I'm Rod Jane and Freddie of God. I'm so wholesome, everybody. Forget about my past. I'm a different guy. Anyway.
Corrupting and co-opting democracies and sovereign nations everywhere we look. How does what Paul writes to the Ephesians in 6:12 relate to what all of us feel? That our leaders have become corrupted, that there is a need for a significant spirit to infuse and empower us that we may oppose them. Let me...
I'm going to stop that. Our leaders have become corrupted. Stop acting, fool. Jez Hunt says, Brand's as much of a Christian as the Ayatollah. I agree. Let's hear the rest of this. Like, I think he believes this now. Maybe he's got Bear Grylls putting 50 pence in his back now. Who knows?
Know what you think about that. Powers and dark principalities, evil in the heavenly realm. Let me know what you think about that, please, because, you know,
dark principalities. What, like Liechtenstein, you mug? Dark principalities, guys. Let's just say lots of like weird shit that, like, you know, Americans will just buy because they have no frame of reference. The browser's lost connection to your screen share audio. Great. Try sharing your screen again. Oh, good. Thanks. Magic. Well, that's going to be a great thing later on. Carlos is saying, did Thiel fund Hulk Hogan's legal action against Gawker? And is this in any way linked to Brand looking for a new friend? Nothing implied, of course. Thiel did fund the Hulk Hogan legal action against Gawker. It wasn't on Hogan's behalf. It was a vexatious thing. And I can understand why to a degree, because Gawker outed Peter Thiel as homosexual, which, you know, is, regardless of who he is, that's his sexuality shouldn't be coming into it. So, yes, but this then turned into this move against the press, which has like just stymied a lot of like the growth of independent media and things of that nature. And given that he's a master of the AI firmament, I wouldn't like to possibly make any allegations about certain keywords that may or may not be getting squashed. I mean, you know, let's not do that at all. JC says, thing is, he's actually right. Pal was talking about principalities and powers, government and tyrants, but that includes your paymaster. Well, quite, yeah, it does. It's all of them. And that's the bit I'm trying to get across with Brand and everything else of that nature. He's just speaking up for another faction of the establishment, and everything that he's saying about the opposition could be leveled at the people he's speaking up for too. He just doesn't talk about that, which is why, like, people went to school with, people in my families, things like that, people we know have suddenly turned into a bit fash, and they don't even think they have. And, you know, people talk about, like, and they've talked about this many times leading up to now, like, hey, now you know what you'd be doing in the 1930s in Germany. Yeah, guys. You do. It's a global problem, and you have to stand up against it. Otherwise, fascism happens. Like, it's not just something we can sit off and go, that's terrible, or like check people's spelling mistakes online or some shit, because that's been part of it and all. So the top and bottom of it is this: people need to just start getting comfortable with working class people and being around them. Paul Elliott, what you saying, Paul? Jesus, no brand is a wrong, and Jesus don't want him for a sunbeam. Doesn't want him. Doesn't want him at all. Right. I'm gonna try and play this. So let us know, right? Whether you can hear this, because I got that mad notification off StreamYard, and I don't want that. Don't get me started on grammar Nazis, says Glasgow. Let us do a quick 10 seconds. Absolutely and utterly do me beans in. Like, many people, like, they might have dyslexia, they might, have went to different schools, etc., etc. Quite a lot of people in prison have learning difficulties, and it's obviously the frustration of that, but also being unable to engage with certain jobs that are more predisposed to a life of crime. So it's the thin end of the wedge, like laughing at people over fucking spelling and grammar. Like, we never know people's stories. And honestly, when Facebook and everything first started, I just thought the reveal of that kind of snobbery. I mean, I've blocked mad amounts of people just on that basis, because I just won't have it. So anyway, let us know if the audio works on this, my faithful fellow acolytes of Grot Bags. RIP. Can you hear this? He's so in love with getting that car. Oh, well, so apparently the audio wasn't working there, which is a shame, and I'm just finding it out now. So anyway, what happened was, and we'll ditch the videos for now, is that Brand was given a signed Donald Trump cap by Donald Trump's spokesperson. He's like, "No way, look at that." Seemed really buzzing about it. What an absolute dodge pot and a half. Anyway, Channel 4 dispatches. This was from some time ago. Just a little reminder for no reason. Exclusive: Russell Brand denies accusations of rape, sexual assault, and controlling and emotionally abusive behavior. 5 women share their stories with Channel 4 dispatches in a joint investigation with The Times. Watch Russell Brand in plain sight. Still available, I believe, if you want to go watch it. Here's a little excerpt, little trigger warning though. So it does mention rape, sexual assault, and, well, I'm going to read it now and we'll crack on. So make your choice. He sent a car to my school to take me out of lessons. This is from The Times. As a taxi approached Russell Brand's home, Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. Recognizing the destination, he'd start to ask questions. Alice admitted she was 16 and still in school. She says the driver replied that his daughter was the same age and entreated Alice, "Please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl and I would want someone to do this for her." He offered to take her home without charge, but Alice insisted she was fine. He had just such a sad look in his eyes, she recalls. I mean, that's not the best, is it? And it's not the best that no, there's an ongoing legal case. So I'm not gonna, like, dance around the edges of it. We'll just leave that, like, quote there. But big up that taxi driver. And this, to me, in any scenarios, real or imagined, alleged or otherwise, that's what you want to see. You want to see men, especially, like, definitely, older men, showing a good example and just saying, look, you don't want to be doing these things. We need that. So big up that guy. What else we got? Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon's a convicted felon. Trump's campaign chair, Paul Manafort, is a convicted felon. Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, is a convicted felon. Trump's advisor, Roger Stone, also a convicted felon. Donald Trump, convicted felon. Yeah, we've seen video earlier in this show about, like, apparently Trump's just, he's fine. He's no bother. He just seems to hang around with a lot of convicted felons. It's nothing wrong with that. Apparently, according to Alexia Brand. Anyway, I'm putting this up on the screen. And I'm just going to play this while I have a quick drink. Have a look at the circle of fascism on the screen. I honestly don't think I get enough credit for being able to pivot straight into plan B when the videos wreck. I think I should be given more credit in the comments. Come on, shower me with credit. But anyway, right. On the screen, it's a circle. I'm going to read it. Uninspiring centrist refuses to tackle underlying social problems that led to the rise of the far right. It moves on. Stagnating living standards create fertile ground for fascism. Far right win elections. France. We're coming on to that. Italy also, Maloney. Far-right drives economy off a cliff, lowers standards of public life, and generally makes everything objectively worse, which is what's happening in Argentina with Cosmic Asline right now. Moving it forward, which is where Britain's at now. Uninspiring centrist defeats far-right with a promise of change, which is Yastama. And then round and round the wheel goes. Where will it stop? Well, we do know. Global techno-fascism under the auspices of King Thiel. So anyway, I wanted to read this out. And this is from Thomas Sankara, the African revolutionary. So repeatedly, Sankara tried to persuade his comrades the revolution could advance only if people were won over to its goals of their own free will, not through compulsion. The revolution, he said, needs a convinced people, not a conquered people, a convinced people, not a submissive people, passively enduring their fate. The aim should be to win over everyone. We're 8 million Burkinabe, which is Burkina Faso. Our goal is to create 8 million revolutionaries. Failing to rely on persuasion, he said just before the coup, would inevitably lead to more repression. A conquered people means an endless series of prisons. For revolutionaries, victory lies in the disappearance of prisons. For reactionaries, victory lies in the construction of a maximum number of prisons. That's the difference between them and us. And I wanted to insert that into the narrative. The difference between decent people and whatever the fuck Russell Brand's doing now is they absolutely, in everything that they do, even to the point of death, will try and include all people and want all people to, and this is the word, consensually agree to participate in social change. Consent. So that's what's going to change things for the better. Taking everybody with, as many people as you can with you. You know, the division that Russell Brand is seeding, and also the public health disinformation. I would love to see some kind of study as to how many people he's possibly affected by his crap and his lies. And we will win in the end because it's inevitable, because this whole stuff, it's inevitable. Anyway, this is something that I wanted to point out in terms of how the liberal intelligentsia will pivot like they did in the 1930s towards, well, we could just normalize this. The Fash are fine. So anyway, at Dan Hancock's on Twitter, just heard Evan Davis and Professor Tim Bale on Radio 4's PM agreeing that the label far right should be dropped because such parties are now popular enough that, in Bale's words, I think we have to normalize them now. Apparently, we shouldn't produce frightening headlines about far-right parties anymore because they are part of the landscape. Yeah, they're part of the landscape because of people like yous, especially Evan Davis, like running game on anything that could provide any kind of succor to millions of people living in poverty. That's literally the same old playbook as it goes on the regs. And these people will give fascism a back rub on the way in, and they need to bite our poo. Right, 2 seconds. This is Alex Armstrong. He's a talking head on GB News and also employed by Darren Grimes on his Reasoned platform. Where do these people get the funding for these platforms? I think we might know. I'm actually applying for funding to find out, to do an investigation in them, but that's another story for another day. At Alex Armstrong, in Browner, where the far right won in France, on the screen for audio people, we've got a map of France. And it's basically like a big brown turd. Maybe they aren't far right. Maybe they are just ordinary people fed up with the hard left elitists telling them you're racist, extremist, and fascist for holding common sense views. It's things like this, and they use common sense. Like, you know, that's like the framing that they want to use, because anything outside of common sense is not normal. It abnormalizes it. They decide as they go on what common sense is, and it's generally some kind of really deep fash doctrine, which has been like dressed up for the modern era. So the point there is like the people who are doing all the hand wringing about how could we possibly have got to this? Well, it's because you're not like giving the same energy towards the far right as you would towards what you term the hard left. Corbyn is not hard left. Mild democratic socialism is apparently communism now. And that's what's really happening with the Overton window, not what these GB News talking heads want us to believe. I mean, look at the language that they're using here, man. Like hard left elitists. What are you on about, man? It's like literally what your hard right elitists. So let's read it like reality. Hard right elitists telling them that they're racist, extremist, and fascist for holding common sense views. Like literally, we just want like millions of people not being in poverty. It's common sense, because you end up with like a constantly churning society of doom. I just want to point something out. Actually, I'm not for open borders in the current context, and I've always maintained this view. It's where I deviate from like quite a lot of people on the left. I just think that if it's done in a certain way, then it like the way I want it to happen is this: I want open borders, but given that there's not equality of opportunity globally, then I don't think we can, because people naturally are going to flee war, they're going to flee economic problems, they're going to like do whatever they can to help their families. You would do it, I would do it, anybody would do it. So that's the context to it. But in the complete like landscape of now, no. David Livingston, the map of France is a lie. Please expand. Right. So like anymore. JC Paul Elliott. That Brand documentary, 5 women in different parts of the world tell basically the same story about Brand's actions, which tells no pattern of predatory behavior. I know who I believe in Brand. And again, for the purposes of an ongoing legal case, that's your opinion. Joanne, genius cow, please expand. I like to be told of my genius. Read what we got here. Everything happens for a reason, except when it doesn't. But even then, you can, in hindsight, fabricate a reason that will satisfy your belief system. We're all doing it. Everybody's doing that. Like, not everything happens for a reason. And we're all doing a bit of heavy copium to try and satisfy our existing belief systems. You know what I think? Rip all belief systems up. 19th century theories do not solve 21st century problems. Absolute facts. So, hell to the no, we need new stuff. It's just such a paucity of imagination to lean into this stuff on the right and the left. All of it can just do one, man. What we got? Cowdaly, the how could this possibly have happened energy currently sweeping across Europe from people who absolutely aided and abetted these outcomes via smearing anything decent as a sight to behold. And here we are in the UK about to spin the wheel of injustice once again. We can all see what comes next after that. There's never been a time more important to think of the most vulnerable person you know and vote in their best interest. That last bit there, just meme that into existence. It really is about like saying to people and tapping into that, like whether it was fake or whatever. During the early part of the pandemic, in terms of like people like, oh, I really care about people who are more vulnerable than I am. Never been more an important time to show people that. So vote in the interests of the most vulnerable person you know. Honestly, man, like the amount of people who are giving it the whole big licks about like and have done for years, and then they're still voting Labour is what? On the screen. oh wow, that's so cool, person in a mask talking to somebody in public. And then they're thinking this person thinks of themselves as a leftist, but they won't even wear a mask to stop people from dying. Honestly, and I'm not bothered who this offends, whatever. If you're not wearing a mask, I'm judging you if you're on the left. Proper. Don't ever speak of ableism again. Ever. Ever. Because the evidence is quite plainly there, and you're supposed to be the intelligent ones, and what's going on? It's just crazy. All right, so David's expanded for us. He lives in France. So the idea is that the FN, that's Front National, Le Pen's people, won all those areas. Not true. The FN did not win a majority in those areas. France uses PR. Well, that's interesting because, the GB News talking head is spreading lies on the lie platform that is Elon Musk's X. And in the past, that would have been taken down, which wasn't like great. Oh, what's this? Joanne saying you wanted credits. Ah, nice one. Keep calling us a genius then. Right. David goes on to say, in many areas, they were the biggest party, but there are many, many parties, indeed. Even animal rights parties, 3 different green parties, 7 different left parties. David, let me know what your opinion is on something I'm going to bring up in a minute, which is like the forming like Voltron of different left-wing parties, including, is the Party Socialist the equivalent of the Labour Party? Let me know. I believe it to be, but I'll stand correct or sit corrected if you want. So the Parti Socialiste, the Ecologist, Place Publique, La France Insoumise, the Communist Party Generations, and the Republican and Socialist Left have agreed to form the Popular Front. They're running single candidates across France in order to fight Le Pen's national rally. The left might have finally got its act together, at least somewhere. A little bobbed one at the end there from me. They're targeting the UK left specifically because, they need to be criticised as much as the right do, in my view, because, millions of people living in poverty. Enough is enough campaign, absolutely shite. Mick Lynch telling people to vote Labour, people putting the likes of Driscoll on a pedestal when in fact he'd still be in the Labour Party now, giving back rubs to Bridget Phillipson on Facebook. I've got all the screenshots. The election's over now, deal's off. And more, actually, loads more. So the problem is this: can we get some kind of united front across the board that doesn't have to come from the looming threat of Le Pen and fascism and? I mean, Meloni, who was part of the Brothers of Italy and literally wore a black shirt in a little mad fascist youth group when she was 15, is the PM of Italy. And one of the reasons why in the European Parliament groupings, there's 2 Fash groupings, is Le Pen and Meloni both don't like each other, apparently, and don't want to cede leadership to the other one because of this sort of like fascist strong man, strong woman thing, which is what Russell Brand's desperately he's read Nietzsche, he knows, he's desperately trying to move the whole narrative away from Trump being the Übermensch and Nietzschean Superman philosophies. Anybody who's read this stuff sees what he's doing. He's a little mug, man. But like the reason I've dealt him into this is, 1, I dislike him intensely and we've been covering him for a long time. 2, something I want to tell you, I'm going to put a funding bid in, right? And we're going to do a proper investigation into the rise of the far right, how AI is involved, how talking heads are involved, where the money is, those type of things. So keep your fingers crossed. One of the things, just to close the show off as well, obviously I said recently that I've had to go off and put some time and energy into like stabilizing my finances, my families. I've been doing this for a long time and putting a lot of graft into it as well. And I'll continue to do that. But going forward over this next phase, it's going to be sporadic because I have to do the things which right my finances, pay off the debts that I accrued from spinal surgery, then long COVID for years. It's horrendous. I just can't live with this stress anymore whilst trying to like spin the plates of doing the show and every other bits that actually make his money. So I'm just bringing a few bits in, and then once that's done, we'll come up with like some kind of new timings and that kind of thing for the show. We might keep it the same, we might not. It'll just depend on what I get in. I am just not doing this in the same way anymore at all. Like, I can't continue to do that, like, financially, and just the stress of all of they're trying to hold that all together. I appreciate, like, entirely people are skint. It's like, you know, the cost of living, whatever. So I have to come up with a new model, which means that I have to fund this to a degree, because the amount of work I put into this is nowhere near the amount that comes back at all. Like, and there's been that for years. I mean, the hourly rate would be about 5 pence if you spread it over 10 years. So I'm sure long-term people will understand and will, like, allow me this time to right the ship and crack on. So basically, I'm just taking a bit of freelancing. Anybody out there, I have a variety of skills and experiences. So if you want to pay me to advise you on how to do things, I'm your kid. But yeah, I'm just getting a whole blend of different bits of freelancing and cracking on. But we'll be back as always. We'll carry on. We might have to go to 1 day a week. I don't know. We'll have to see how things pan out. But it's the only way to keep going. Simple as that. You don't want to go off and take a full-time job? No, I don't want to do that either, but I might have to. Because, you know, I could. So anyway, read Matty's saying, I had to do the same, bruv, but 2 years in from easing off the weed work, I'm going back. I hear you, mate. I know how much you've put in. Thankless bloody task, innit? Glasgow, self-care fam, always, yeah. Appreciate that, man. Nice one. Glasgow, I've got to pay the bills, no ethical consumption, all that jazz. That's why I'm farming big at tears. Work smart, not hard. That's the one, man. Keep farming them. As I say, like, I mean, one of the things I want to do with the money I earn is I want to employ an editor, because obviously I mean, if you saw the amount I try to do here, it's a lot, right? So I've identified that I need to get an editor in, and I need to have, because the way you market this properly is you get little short clips out, and I just don't have time to do them, to like drive them to the thing, whatever. So an editor it is. And Matty is saying this regarding the weed work. It's not thankless, but people expect a lot for free. I know. And do you know what it is, man? Like, I've given away a lot of myself for free for like all my life, really. And I'm in my late 40s now. I'm comfortable with that. And I'm also comfortable telling people no. And the top and bottom of it is this. I have to, I've already, I'll tell you in the drop in, which I'll give you a date for coming up. But I'll tell like patrons and that in the drop in, like kind of what's going on, because we'll have those type of conversations, not for the public consumption. There's a lot of really positive opportunities coming in, and I ask us out there to put the good vibes out in the air and hope that they come my way, because it'll fast track where they're getting this sorted, and I can employ a bloody editor as well, and then we can just go even further. But that's how it works. Investment. JC, no, not that one. Final say, take care of yourself above all else, Mike. I will do, brother. Thank you so much. Right. I hope you've enjoyed it today. There's the Fash. There is some hope, by the way. I'm not going to do this whole schnoff from the Thundercats, like kind of, hey, don't worry, everybody, everything's going to be fine. Because, you know, unless we actually get out and challenge this shit, it's not going to be fine. It's not going to be fine for people who are not white at all. And I'm down with whatever. There's an old thing, right, that we all should hold on to. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. That's not just a slogan. Whatever it takes. Anyway, I'm off. Final call. Matty, I'm a vegan. I know. If you want to support the work, patreon.com/cowdaily. That's patreon.com/cowdaily for all of your regular and predictable income to support independent media, i.e. me needs. Also, link in the description for PayPal, and you can do all of those like mad super chats and all that. Super thanks on YouTube. So if you're listening to this back, please do. You still can. That would be appreciated. Food to eat. Food to eat. What you gonna do about the food to eat? Where on earth is the closing titles? They're here. I'm off. Love to all. Goodbye.